Hey everybody, welcome back to the VIP Financial Ed YouTube channel. My name is Matthew Pillmore. I am the president of a company known as VIP Financial Education. This is one of the most anticipated trainings that I personally have been looking forward to. We have with me today one of my senior most coaches, Mr. Jesse Garcia. Jesse is widely known as one of the most popular coaches here at VIP, and I think it's really been your straightforward approach as to how you handle coaching sessions that I get compliments about on a weekly basis. So Jesse and I have been working together now for well over a dozen years. We've helped thousands of families together, and Jesse is actually partially responsible for writing a good portion of the coach's training manual and coach's training process. He's probably architected 75% of that. So Jesse is a major component to the VIP process. And what I wanted to talk with you guys about today is exactly what we identify as typical when it comes to progress as a coaching member. So Jesse and I wanted to have a little bit of a dialogue, just kind of address some of the frequently asked questions that we get. I think people just really want to understand, what do I expect? If I am paying you guys this tuition cost, then what do I get in return for that? I mean, a return on investment is obviously one of the key points to analyze prior to agreeing to a partnership here. So why don't we just kind of start off with maybe you and I discussing a little bit about what the typical candidate looks for or looks like when they're first uncovering that we exist and seeing some of these really spectacular possibilities. What would be kind of a typical coaching member in your mind?
The first thing I look at whenever I look at a cash flow cruncher nowadays, I notice that things are somewhat unorganized.
Yeah.
They have strong cash flow. They usually have strong credit, though we get a diverse number of students with credit all over the place sometimes. The reality is they have an impression about what they think they want us to see, and then suddenly we look at their budget together and say, okay, let's redo this a little bit. And part of it's just the education process. They didn't realize what they didn't know before. And they can even be in fields like finance and attorneys and doctors and all kinds of, they come from a diverse number of backgrounds, but then all of a sudden we're telling them, let's change some things. So sometimes there's a little bit of resistance as well. Not that they're not wanting to learn from us, but just that they're like a little scared maybe.
Well, that's really uncomfortable. We talk about that a lot. If you're too uncomfortable being put in an uncomfortable position to change, oftentimes that can be enough to where you fall short of your potential with this program. So I would strongly recommend, as you're first getting started, to just accept the fact that we're here to change. We want to be pulled out of our comfort zones, and we want to be here as your coaches to do the same for you. When you're uncomfortable, you're usually growing, and as long as you're working with qualified experts, that's usually growth in the right direction, right?
Right.
But it can be scary. It can be really uncomfortable. So you're saying that we often are working with people who start off in a very comfortable position financially, right? We're not usually that solution. If you're in a hardship place right now with your money, this usually isn't for you. Right. Wouldn't you agree?
Right.
So, oftentimes we would steer in places like Dave Ramsey. If that's where you are today, it's okay. Listen, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to get your financial ducks in a row, and then you can obviously advance yourself into, I think a higher level of techniques and philosophies, which is what we teach here. So a good starting point would be perhaps somebody like Dave Ramsey. I'm not a huge Susie Orman fan or Dave Ramsey fan for that matter, but I do support that they're helping people structure their finances.
Sure.
One thing that you just mentioned was really creating that awareness, right? When you first fill out a cash flow cruncher, wouldn't you agree that it is that disorganization that causes certain leaks inside a plan that could be easily preventable and really kind of help leapfrog somebody to that next level?
Sure. Every now and then I'll get the student who knows exactly where every penny is going, but that is not the majority. Most of our members will come in and, I didn't realize I was spending money in that area before. Okay, let's take a look at these statements. Let's look at where the money's going. Let's find the leaks and plug some holes. And so initially we're trying to organize that, get a handle on the entire set of circumstances that they're facing. And it's really good once they come out of that first few sessions and they're like, wow, now I at least am empowered by simply knowing where my money's going.
No kidding.
Now I can redirect that.
That's right. And it's funny because I'm surprised at this point in our career when we come across somebody where that doesn't amount to at least $100 per month, right?
Right.
And it's often possible for us to even find 1,000 or more per month in just that first 3 to 6 months of reorganization and being a lot more accountable to proper budget management. So make no mistake, within the first 3 to 6 months, the relationship that we have with almost every one of our members is paying for itself. So what do we expect then more in the long run? So let's say 6 months on to that 30-month point, because we do partner with people for a very long period, right? 30 months, people sometimes hear that and they think, man, I actually had a guy recently that said, maybe if it was 6 months, I would be more on board. And I thought, at what point is your money not going to matter to you, right? At what point does your cash flow management stop mattering? I find money to be one of those interesting subjects because one could argue that it, in many ways, could matter beyond your passing. You could die, and the way you managed your finances will affect the people you leave behind, right? You're either leaving a huge liability and a mess for other people to clean up, or you're leaving a collection of assets and something more for your legacy, your offspring, your beneficiaries to work with, right?
Sure. It's important to remember that they've got here by having years or decades of getting to that point. You know, they started at this route and they've been living their life, and now they have to make a change, and suddenly they think, well, in 6 months I should be where I need to be. Doesn't work that way.
That's true.
It takes a long time to correct the ship, to change direction. And that's true in all kinds of areas of life.
Yeah.
Dieting, health. I mean, yes, you could lose weight quick, but if you really want to help your lifestyle and change the way you live, it takes longer than that.
True, and I mean, wouldn't it be safe to say that really this is a lifetime change of behavior? We're not really looking to partner with people who are interested in more of that temporary set of results, right? Because you're going to get out of this whatever you put into it. At the end of the day, if you're putting in temporary changes to behavior, expect temporary results. Lifetime changes of behavior, lifetime results. So make sure that you're committing to this for the long haul. This is not a temporary change for anybody that we're choosing to work with.
Well, and I also once told a member, I said, you know, I've never met anyone who wanted to die with a six-pack. They didn't care about the six-pack at that point, but they do care about dying wealthy and having something to leave to their offspring.
Yeah.
So there's even a greater cause to be more concerned about this and make these changes for the long haul.
So what do you say is one of the most exciting things people take away and start sharing with you over the long run? Say somebody that's really progressed through their membership. It's been years at this point. We've been working with them for, say, a year and a half, 2 years. What is it that people get most enthusiastic about over that first period of time?
In the beginning, they want to see a return on investment. They want to know, hey, has my cash flow changed significantly? Have I saved a certain amount in interest? Have I built some wealth? They want to know that they have the option to choose as well. And one of the greatest benefits of debt weapons in general, whatever the type of debt weapon may be, is that it gives them the ability to put things back in their control again. They can say, all right, I want to divert funds towards debt and pay it down and save an interest. Or I want to go invest in XYZ. And now they can make changes when they feel like they're in control again. And so at that point, once they've been in this program for a length of time, it's just, here's what I want to do, Jesse. Here's what I was thinking about investing in. What are your thoughts? And a lot of times we just end up going along with it and say, here's what you need to consider. Here are the pitfalls. Here's a better, more efficient way to do that same goal. Or let's compare that outcome to maybe this outcome over here. If you invest, or let's say you paid down $40,000 in debt this year. Well, that would be nice, and we can calculate how much you save in interest. But by investing in this duplex or whatever the case might be, which has a certain amount of cash flow per month, that might create a longer return on investment.
Exactly. So one thing that you mentioned that I think is dead on, that I love the most about this program and what our intentions were initially, is that it really boils down to a collaborative process, right? I mean, when somebody is forming a relationship with their coach, it's really going to be all about both affirmations, validation, and alternatives. It's not just us coming in and trying to dictate what you're doing with your money. It's not about that at all. You're always in control. You're the one in the driver's seat. You're the one that's making the ultimate decision. Your coach is there to help enlighten you to things that you're either A, doing exactly the way you should be doing, in which case we're validating that so you can sleep at night comfortable knowing that you were on the right track, and B, making sure that that any other possible options are explored so that pros and cons can be discussed. You're comparing and contrasting all of your options. And the problem with being emotional about money, how many people have you worked with that weren't emotional about their money?
Oh, it's been so rare.
Right? Somewhere around here. So the idea here, guys, is understanding that when you're filtering your decisions through an emotional experience, your ultimate choices are going to be different than somebody that's filtering your options through a non-emotional, impartial perspective. And that's what someone like Jesse is doing for you on a monthly basis. So how often would you say your most successful coaching members are being coached at this point? How does it take a lot of their time? Because I think people are kind of worried about this becoming a part-time job, right?
Sure. Usually most commonly, students will reach out to us once a month. That's what we encourage. Now, in some instances, though, it can be as simple as sending me an email and I simply call them back with answer to those questions. So it may not be a formally scheduled session. In some rare instances, a student might say, all right, I'll call you 45 days later. We might be dealing with a closing on a property or writing up articles of incorporation for a new entity or something like that, or investing in a whole life policy. Whatever the case might be, all of those options are on the table, and so it sometimes takes time. But most of the time, we're speaking 30 to 45 days. That's just what we find is most successful.
And like you said, there are third-party delays where sometimes we are just naturally in a holding pattern, and that can happen also with the debt weapon approval process too. Mm-hmm. So debt weapons are a very exciting part about this coaching relationship. It's not the end-all be-all. I think many times people put an imbalanced proportion of their enthusiasm around debt weapons versus what the coaching actually is intended to do and will benefit in so many different areas aside from that. But one thing I think people are always asking is, what can they expect from a debt weapon acquisition process, right? I mean, wouldn't you say it's relatively unusual when we help someone get access to less than $25,000 in a year? Yeah. And it's usually common for people to get access to as much as $250,000 in a year. Those are kind of the sides of the spectrum that you'll want to keep in mind. It goes without saying that one debt weapon for $20,000 can accomplish exponentially more than not worrying about getting the debt weapon in the first place. If all you had was one debt weapon that you used periodically over and over again, the results are quite spectacular. I have one debt weapon in particular that I got back when we first started working together. It's going on a decade and a half now that I've had this tool, and it has generated millions of dollars for us in both this company and another company, and we just use it and pay it off, and then use it again and pay it off, and use it again and pay it off. If this is your first time hearing the term debt weapon, then you just simply haven't seen enough of our video trainings yet. So you're going to want to go through the rest of the channel, check out some of the longer form videos, especially those 1-hour videos where we deep dive into the arithmetic and show you exactly how powerful these various tools are. But kind of a short summary is these are blending instruments provided both in and out of financial institutions that allow us to fast track almost any financial goal. The number one outcome of a debt weapon is an increase to your net cash flow. Now, we define cash flow here at VIP as the difference between what you earn and what you spend. So anything that's left over after 100% of your expenses have been paid, we call cash flow. Some people call that disposable or discretionary income. It's the same thing. So cash flow is what allows you to have more freedom to choose how you spend your time. And this channel and really what we're teaching, our coaching system in general, is all about helping you earn freedom. So if you are attracted to the idea of having more ability to choose how you spend your time, where you spend your time, how long you're there, what you can spend your money on, then you are in the right place. Make sure you go ahead and plug into all of our video trainings on this channel. If you haven't yet done so, consider subscribing. Make sure you turn on the bell notification so you're alerted every time new information is dropped. If you want us to feature our senior coach, Mr. Jesse Garcia, again on these videos, make sure you drop a like on this video. And please put your comments and questions in the comments section below, because we'd love to be able to answer those either in a live Q&A or on our next video here together. Jesse, love having you in the family, my buddy. Yeah, love it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Until we see you on the next video, make it a great day today, and take care.